Oh my Lord. Oh my Lordy. I didn't know the A-10 went down too. What the heliante? Oh, the way that the media is trying to massage the war efforts is we have a whole fleet of F-35s that we paid $2 trillion for the R&D on. Why aren't we using them? What the fuck? Wait, what? A second Air Force combat plane crashed in the Persian Gulf region on Friday. The lone pilot was rescued. Wait, what the hell? Wait, this is another. Wait, what? No, this has got to be like the one that we know from the one that we saw earlier, right? Like, that's crazy. If they're just dropping like flies, that's what? A second U.S. combat aircraft, an A-10 Warthog, crashed near the Strait of Hormuz. The pilot was safely rescued at roughly the same time an F-15. What the fuck? Hey, yo! Brother, what the fuck is going on, man? John McCain is spinning like a top in his grave thinking about all the fucking fighter jets that are falling. Holy moly. And the Black Hawk was struck too. Oh my Lord. Oh my Lordy. I didn't know the A-10 went down too. What the heliante? Oh, Jesus Christ. Oh, my Lord, that's bad. That's unbelievable, dude. Unfreaking believable. An Iranian capture of U.S. pilots could be a turning point in the war with Iran. God damn, dude. It is. What a day. What a time to be fucking alive, dude. Holy shit. Sorry for the off-topicness, but I've been thinking about China. I'm wondering why you think a China-led world order would be good, or would it just be better than what it is now, which would be very likely to be true, to be honest. I can see the argument. Okay, man, I just, look. Western domination around the globe has been very beneficial in comparison to the rest of the world for people living in the imperial core. That much is true, okay? Yes. But it's been disastrous for everyone else living in the periphery that has to basically sit around and operate like wage slaves for American empire, for Western empire, and have all their natural resources be extracted, and have foreign capital refuse to actually evenly develop these countries. It's been horrible. I mean, look at what we're doing to Iran right now, okay? So yeah, I am a fan of a different method, multipolarity. I think that would be good. It would be good for all these other countries. Give them room to breathe, allow them to develop evenly, unlock some potential that exists in these places, right? I just got back from Cuba. It's a great example of what we have done to another country, the unnecessary cruelty that we subject people to simply to make an argument, right? We're punishing an island of 11 million people that are just trying to survive because, communism bad. Our cruelty is pretty much on autopilot. People don't even understand it, right? People don't even realize what we're doing. It's totally ridiculous. It's got to change. And now we are, in many respects, a victim of our own success. We defeated the Soviets. The Cold War ended. Capitalism won. Western superiority was established all around the world, right? And ever since the 90s, we have supercharged capitalism. And in many respects, that ruined domestic politics in the Western world, in the imperial core, the heavy financialization of the global economy, where the Western world no longer has any sort of like robust industrial base, especially not in the United States of America. And obviously the consequences for the American economy are very obvious. And now you got a handful of oligarchs picking apart the corpse of American empire for scraps. So it's not good for the people that we're dominating and we're murdering. It's certainly not good for the people who are doing the murdering either. And it's not even good for the people who are sitting around in the imperial core. It's good in comparison. We have it much better than they do, right? by virtue of not being under the boot. But even then, something's got to change. Something's got to change. We're terrorizing the world and we're terrorizing ourselves, and we got to fix it. So that's my attitude on multipolarity. That's my attitude on America receiving a little bit of a bloody nose here, maybe a black eye here from Iran or from any of these forces, really, so that we're forced to retreat. We're forced to recalculate exactly how far we can expand empire, and maybe, hopefully, change some things at the domestic home front, change some things for the better, you know? And let me tell you, our nose has been thoroughly bloodied, especially in the past couple of weeks, right? I think you're gravely underestimating Aaron's ability to demoralize the United States. Aaron? Is that Iran? Calling Iran Aaron is pretty funny. I don't even know if you were trying to do that as a bit, but I like it. Yeah, my boy Aaron, he's a real fighter, dude. Yeah.
A two-seater fighter jet, an F-15. The pilot would be in the front. The weapons systems officer would be in the back. And this would be a very dramatic and very dangerous rescue. Iran's Revolutionary Guard saying that Iranian forces had shot down the U.S. fighter jet overnight, with Iranian state media releasing images of the wreckage of that jet. And
bro, this was so funny. Like, the way that the American media was covering this issue was, I'm sorry, kind of funny. Okay, it's devastating for the pilots, but also it's going to be quite difficult for me to feel a sense of sympathy for American Air Force pilots when I know what they're doing. Right? Like, I've seen what they're doing. It's disastrous. They're responsible for a litany of war crimes. Like, here's an alternative. Don't do that. Right? Quit. Better to be in prison, better to be thrown in the brig than to go and blow up a school, right? Like, you have to make that moral calculation at some point. You have to apply for conscientious objector status. If you don't do that and you're flying over Iranian airspace with your F-15 on your way to fucking blow up a school or another like medical facility, and boom, you get your shit clocked in between, then, you know, fair is fair, right? It's the same principle I have for spies, right? If you're Chinese and you're a Chinese spy and you're spying on America and you get caught, fair is fair. You got. Same with American spies. Same with Russian spies, right? If you're Russian, you're spying on Americans, you get caught, fair is fair. If you're an American, you're spying on Russians, you get caught, fair is fair. This is the rules of warfare, right? And the same goes for this. Now, having said that, what I consider to be at least like quite illustrative of the way that the media is trying to massage the war efforts is the fact that CNN International PR did this piece right after they found the wreckage a couple hours ago, right? Like, this was originally aired, I think, like 6, maybe 7 hours ago. But CNN International PR posted it 4 hours ago. Why is it funny? Because by that point, there was a search and rescue operation that was being conducted at that point for like 4 hours. Okay? So the fact that they were still like, well, CENTCOM told us it's not real. They have all of their fleet is accounted for. It was just like, buddy, I don't know if you're seeing this, but the tail is in front of you. Okay? That's our thing. That's our fucking fighter jet. You're looking at pieces of it. It's totally ridiculous to be like, well, what we know at the moment is that the Americans in Central Command have said so far that all their planes are accounted for. I mean, I guess the plane is technically accounted for. It's not a lie. It's just, it's accounted for in Iran, right? It says Europe on it, lip dart. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I wonder what the rest of the word is, because it doesn't just say Europe. If anything, them saying that only makes them more incompetent. It's just so transparent that they're lying. I think, I will say this, I don't think this generation fully comprehends how information, propaganda, and information warfare is conducted during wartime. Because there's obviously the fog of war. But outside of that, like, we now live in an environment where, if any kind of Iranian anti-air defenses take out an F-15, you're going to know about it because there's going to be numerous angles that people have filmed, right? And if the Iranian government allows it, which clearly they did in this circumstance, that information will be distributed to the Western audiences by way of Western social media. And they'll probably even make a Lego AI video about it, in a couple days. So that's just how this stuff is conducted. So you can't really lie about it, right? You can't just be like, oh, that's not true. Didn't happen, dude. Don't believe your lying eyes. It just doesn't work that way, right? You don't have the level of control that you might have had when there was like 4 fucking TV channels, right? Like when it was 4 TV channels, you could say whatever you wanted. There was no internet. There was no access to the Iranian side unless you had a reporter who would go out and ask the Iranian side, right? Like back then it was a lot easier to control the flows of information. Nowadays it's just online immediately, okay? Catch up, old man, Lego vid out. It's out already? That's crazy.
Meantime, Iranian media has released images that appear to show debris of a downed US fighter jet, saying the fate of the pilot is unknown. Well, Matthew Chance is in Doha, covering off some of this latest. Matthew, let's start with what we know about this downed jet in Iran. State media certainly saying it's a US F-35. We've seen the images that they've posted.
Yeah, it's not an F-35. It was an F-15, right? Which, again, I thought they were using the F-35s. Why are they not using the F-35s? I wonder. Because that's another question, right? We have a whole fleet of F-35s that we paid $2 trillion for the R&D on. Why are we using them? What the fuck? $2 trillion. What happened? What happened? Why are we still on that F-15? What the fuck? Also, another question I have personally, because I love my president. I love my president. I love America. And I believe my president, my big, beautiful, bold, brave president. And he keeps telling me we've achieved total victory over Iran. Like air superiority has been established. We're blowing up all the schools for fun now. You know what I mean? We're blowing up bridges and the electrical grid is being threatened. We're now doing flex mode shit, right? Because we established air superiority. So from my perspective, it's just like kind of shocking when I hear stuff like this, because this is not what happens when you have established air superiority. And it's rather strange. I almost feel like my president is fucking lying to me. And if that was the case, everything that I know about the world would be wrong, and I don't know what I would do with myself, because I love my president. I love Donald Trump. I love MAGA, right? And I believe everything he says. And these past 34 days have been rather confusing, because on the one hand, I'm like, yeah, we won. Every time he says we won, I go, yeah, we won. And then he turns around and says we actually didn't win. Like we still have a lot to do. And I'm like, oh, I guess we didn't win. And then he says, no, but we won anyway. And I celebrate again. And also now gas is $11 a gallon. I don't know what we're fucking winning. I want to feel like we're winning. Mr. President, I want to feel like we're winning. It doesn't feel like we're winning right now. What the fuck?
What do we make of those?
Well, look, it's a confused picture at the moment. I mean, yes, you're right. State media is touting this idea. They've shot down a very advanced US fighter jet, an F-35. But what a lot of the military experts are talking about right now is that the parts of the wreckage of the plane that have been shown look more like an F-15, still an American plane. The face of the pilot not clear. What we know at the moment is that the Americans and CENTCOM...
Two pilots. What happened? I thought these... Okay, look, I'm not a missile autist. I'm not a plane autist. I know many of you are in this chat right now because you love situation monitoring, okay? So maybe you can explain something to me. I thought these things came with what is known as standoff munitions, right? Like I thought that they had like plenty of those, because I've always been a committed believer that the United States offensive capabilities are virtually infinite, as opposed to our defensive capabilities, which are obviously finite. Defense is a lot more difficult than offense. It's much easier once you establish air superiority to just like blow shit up, right? What's going on, right? Like what's happening? I thought we had the capabilities of just lobbing tomahawks from a very long distance, or even from airplanes, right? Like I don't get it. Like, why are you in the range of anti-air defense systems if you already have that? Bro, you make no sense. You act like we have never had jets shot down before. Oh, my goat is back. Yo, Gangi's back. Gangi's back. Mr. Contingency's back. On the day where there are not one, not two, perhaps 4 different assets that have been either dinged or destroyed, this guy's back to be like, dude, what do you mean? America's gotten a shit pushed in with regular frequency. No, as a matter of fact, you're wrong. Okay. This does not happen, at least in like modern American combat. I would go so far as say, like, I can remember obviously like, Yugoslavia, that was a big deal. Right. And then the since Vietnam, this hasn't been like a super common incident, right? Because we choose our enemies wisely. We choose our enemies that don't have these sorts of capabilities, right? Nah, deadass, I knew you was about to start this bullshit again. Brother, I don't even know how. Black Hawk Down was a full-ass film. Guys, Black Hawks always do that. They do that for fun. Okay, Ospreys and Blackhawks drop like fucking flies. I'm not talking about that. We're talking about something entirely different. We're talking about an F-15. That's just a part of how Blackhawks operate. Okay, I mean, literally, they fall all the time. They drop like flies during training. There was a Blackhawk that crashed in the Osama bin Laden raid. Okay, that's just something that they do. That's totally separate. We're not talking about that. But Russia loses a lot of jets, but you say Russia is winning, Law? Buddy, what land have we been able to successfully occupy in Iran? We're losing because we have not accomplished our strategic military objectives. Blowing up schools and blowing up like medical facilities is not exactly winning anything, okay? Maybe you're winning biggest asshole award, okay? But you're not fucking winning any strategic military objectives. At least the reason why I say Russia is winning is not because of like the morality of the situation. Obviously, it's immoral that Russia is engaging in this irredentist action. The reason why I say Russia is winning is because they've hardened their positions on eastern Ukraine. That's it. Like they've literally territorially occupied Ukraine, eastern Ukraine, okay? That's it. That's the difference. Their goal was to occupy the entirety of Ukraine. They didn't achieve that goal. They didn't achieve their maximalist goals, but they retreated back to eastern Ukraine, and now they occupy eastern Ukraine militarily. That's, whether you want to admit it or not, that's a victory for Russia, right? The difference, however, on the other hand, is for America. America's military goals here are to, I guess, like deteriorate Iran's munitions, deteriorate their striking capabilities, which they haven't been able to achieve. Obviously, fucking Israel's still getting bombed. We don't even know. Like, that's the other side of the story. We have no idea how many Israeli Air Force assets Iran has actually been able to successfully destroy, because you can't get any information out of the Negev desert. in the same way that you can see the American munitions or the American fighter jets and strato tankers that get blown up on the Saudi Air Force, the Saudi air bases, right? So we don't even know if they've been able to successfully destroy Israeli Air Force jets as well that are not flying, because they have achieved a lot of success in destroying planes on the runway that are just like kind of sitting and waiting to go out to battle. But in any case, it's worth noting that Russia is currently not winning. They're currently bleeding more troops than they are replenishing, and having a large portion of their oil production disabled by Ukrainian drones, Hasan. Yeah, look, this is precisely the reason why I said from the start that this would be a spectacular flub for Russia if they were to be stupid enough to invade Ukraine. It's not going to be a fun ride for them at all, and it certainly hasn't been. But ultimately, the battle lines are still the battle lines, right? Is Ukraine winning by this logic? Like, anyway, let's get back to America.
People that have been speaking about this Central Command, they've said so far that all of their planes are accounted for, and that the Iranian military authorities often make claims like this. And so details, as I say, very sketchy at the moment, but those images are very compelling, and we're hopefully going to get a bit more light shed on this in the hours, perhaps even in the minutes ahead, Ben.
I will say one of the most shocking aspects of this, though, because I was monitoring the situation quite a bit, one of the most shocking aspects of this was the fact that they were able to do a search and rescue mission, right? And it was a crazy one. It was flying super low. You have aerial refueler flying super low alongside two helicopters. There's images of that all over Iranian social media. They were like posting it because it was close enough where they could see it, right? And this is before we get to the A-10, right? The reason why I'm bringing this up is because obviously they were flying so low. It's a very dangerous mission, right? If you've watched Top Gun, if you fly that low, you're avoiding the radar, you're avoiding some of the anti-air defense systems, but obviously there's a litany of other dangers that come along with a search and recovery, search and rescue mission such as that. But here it is. There's some videos of it. I want to show it to you. But what was shocking to me, at the very least, was that they just don't have enough man pads, I guess. Because, like, how do you not mobilize? Iran is massive. Iran's a massive country. But, like, how do you not mobilize in specific quadrants, mobile units with man pads immediately to the area, especially as you're in the process of, like, conducting your own search mission to figure out where these incredibly high-profile prisoners of war will be. Right? But yeah, it's unbelievable. Flying low and slow, very dangerous. Yeah. Now, this is obviously very dangerous this is dangerous because you can be targeted with like conventional weapons at that point, right? Like small arms and shit, especially depending on how close you get to the ground. But then, this is at this point, flying like this, I feel like it's just, all it takes is like one man pad, right? Like, holy shit, that's a tight formation. They're refueling, chatter. Of course, it's a tight formation. You see? From what I understand, some man pads were used to limited success, but you're right. That kind of flying is positively suicidal. Well, it's just the type of flying that you do when you have no other options, where you have to literally engage in this search and rescue mission, and there's no other way to do it. So I think another Top Gun movie could unironically single-handedly restore a lot of Americans' fence-sitters' faith in America's force projection capabilities. Yeah, but what I didn't understand is why the pilots didn't, as soon as they ejected from the F-15, why didn't they go to the nearest Iranian airbase and take over an F-14 and then fly out with it? Because like that's what you're supposed to do in that situation, right? Like that's what I've learned you're supposed to do. I thought that was like standard operating protocol. You eject, you get shot out of the air, you eject, you go to the nearest Iranian airbase and you take over an F-14 fighter jet and you fly out with the F-14 fighter jet, right? Because like they have the F-14s, the Iranians do. So you steal that and then you fly out. That's what you're supposed to do. At least that's what, Tom Cruise taught me is what you're supposed to do. But I guess Israel destroyed all their F-14s, so they can't really do that anymore. Yeah, you pull an F-35 out of inventory. Yeah. Changing to an F-14 is faster than reloading. Yeah. All jets accounted for as they replaced the F-15 with an F-14. Yeah, it's just one step below, right? But yeah, it's been interesting watching. It's been interesting watching this stuff unfold in the way that like Western media is covering it.
Of an intact ejection seat. We do not have those images verified, but they do appear to be credible. The IRGC said it was an F-35, but it was clear that it appeared to be an Air Force F-15. U.S. pilots are trained in what is called SEER. If they're shot down or have to eject over enemy territory. SEER stands for survive, evade, resist, and escape. They, of course, know that the Iranians are looking for them. In fact, Iran put out a message to shoot the pilots if they were found, and a reward was being offered later, they said, if they are found alive. This comes after President Trump claimed in his speech on Wednesday that the Iranians have no anti-aircraft equipment. Their radar, he said, is 100% annihilated.
Iranian state media.
This isn't Star Wars. You can't just steal an Imperial shuttle after your ship crashes. Chatter, that's the joke. That's the joke is that that's what they did in Top Gun. I was joking. Yes, of course you can't do that. So what's interesting about this situation, of course, is that it kind of disparaged a lot of the original propaganda, the initial propaganda that all Iranians are actually welcoming us as liberators. Turns out that wasn't the case. I've seen hundreds of videos of Iranian farmers dusting off their bolt action rifles to take pot shots at these Black Hawk helicopters that were engaging in the search and rescue mission. A lot of people, it didn't seem like these people were actually welcoming them as liberators, unless you can make the argument, and you could convince me on this because like I said, I love Donald Trump. I'm stupid. I'm the stupidest American. I'm MAGA. I'm in a cult, and I believe everything that Donald Trump tells me. And therefore, you could potentially maybe convince me that the farmers were trying to shoot at the Black Hawk helicopters to be like, come down here. We want to give you Kubi Day. Maybe that was the reason why they were doing that. Right? You guys think that's the reason? Maybe they were like, come down, come enjoy our Kubi Day. Maybe that's what they were doing when they were shooting at the helicopters, engaging in a search and rescue operation. They just had no other way to communicate, so they were just shooting at it, right? They were welcoming bullets, welcoming the Americans as liberators, right? You're telling me the Iranian people didn't side with the U.S. after they killed 160 little schoolgirls? Who would have thought? Yeah. Yeah, very odd. I just, yeah, maybe the Iranians have watched a lot of American cowboy television, and they think this is how Americans talk to one another, by shooting at each other. So that's why they were welcoming, they were signaling that they were, greeting people. This is how America, this is how they say marhaba in America. Maybe that was what was going on, you think? I don't know. Anyway,
yes, a U.S. fighter jet has been shot down over Iran's airspace. U.S. media are reporting this hour that one crew member has been rescued. Tehran says the U.S. military has been conducting a search and rescue operation. Iranian media say a helicopter, which was part of the effort, has also been hit by a projectile. State TV has aired footage of
My beautiful 29-year-old baby was just kidnapped from his F-15E Strike Eagle for, you guessed it, being white. Yeah, Iranians are searching for your baby. No, but you see, these guys are actually there to make sure that the American fighter pilot gets a warm welcome, as in, like, if he lands on Iranian soil and no one has guns, Americans panic because they're like, where am I? This must be a communist country or something. No one has guns. So the reason why these guys have guns is to be like, hey, we're just like you, American. We have guns as well. Yeah, they have the flags as well to be like, see, this is Iran, very similar to America. We also have guns.
سلام علیکم یا الله یا سلام
پرچم همیشه بالا
حاجی سلام علیکم خسته نباشی خسته نباشی یا سلام علیکم حاجی سلام علیکم حدیث چیه پیدا کردی
ان شاء الله پیدا میشه.
Yeah, they're actually bringing comfort guns for the pilot. I figured it out. I'm still working on it. I'm still workshopping exactly how this fits into they're welcoming us as liberators mentality that I've been hearing quite a bit from, every Israeli mouthpiece and every American mouthpiece as well, including my favorite president of all time, Donald Trump. And I guess they're bringing emotional support guns because they're like, oh, you just lost your fighter jet and you probably feel a little scared right now. We wanted to give you this gun as emotional support because this is how Americans operate.
Inshallah.
Yeah, they know Americans love guns. They're bringing gifts. So the Iranians started their own search and rescue operations as well. And in the process of their own search and rescue operations, the Iranian government came out and said, we'll give a big bounty to anyone who finds and captures the pilot alive. There's two of them, right? There's supposed to be two of them. There's the weapons officer, and then there's also the pilot, the navigator. And as far as we understand, one of them, according to Israeli news at least, one of them has been rescued successfully. The other, we don't know where he is. And this is before we get to. This is, of course, before we get to the other story. There's a second plane that was downed via the New York Times as well. So there's that too. Fake ass news. How dare you? HasanAbi, the pilot did make it to the Iranian airfield, but the F-14 was inflatable. Tell the real story. Yeah. So, the pilot got rescued. The weapons officer's MIA. Okay. So it hasn't really been a really good day for the war effort, I will say. Hasn't been a really good day. There hasn't really been any good days, honestly, and that's probably the reason why we just keep doing terrorism. The worse things get, the more we blow up medical facilities, schools, children's hospitals, things like that. It's just the way that America tries to redefine the boundaries of the war. When you can't achieve your military objectives, you just kind of kill a bunch of people and you pat yourself on the back for doing so. That's might come across as very cruel, might come across as like redefining the rules of war that have been established, that America actually played a formative role in establishing after World War II. And to that I say, what are you, some kind of hippie? Are you gay? Are you woke? We are doing non-libtarded war, which is when you don't achieve any of your military objectives and you just kill a bunch of civilians and you blow up, facilities used by civilians, right? That's how you fucking own the libs, I think. I don't know. But yeah, it kind of feels like we're not winning hearts and minds here, which is putting me in a unique predicament as someone who loves the president and someone who loves war. I love war. I love death and destruction. And this has been a strange couple of days. So, Yeah, we will achieve no strategic objectives, and in the process, we'll just do a lot of death and destruction. It's fucking fantastic.
It's wreckage of a downed U.S. aircraft. The video, as you can see there, appears to show metal and debris in the back of a truck. Let's bring in Kimberly Halkett, our White House correspondent in Washington, D.C. So, Kimberly, U.S. media reporting that at least one crew member has been rescued. What more are we hearing?
Yeah, well, we're awaiting official statement from the U.S. Central Command, and we expect one is forthcoming. In the interim, what I can tell you is a lot of confusion in the last hour or so with regard to what is accurate and what's being reported. Of course, Iranian state media releasing videos of a search and rescue mission being conducted by the U.S. military, showing video of multiple, at least 2 Black Hawk helicopters, as well as a C-130 flying very low over central and southwest Iran in a search and rescue operation. The question becoming, are there 2 pilots or one that has been the subject of the search? And it does appear now that at least one pilot, it is being reported, has been recovered, but again, unconfirmed reports. What this suggests with one pilot, that it would be an F-35, but there has been more reporting to suggest also that there is a search for 2 pilots, which would mean this is then an F-15 that has been down. So a little bit of confusion regarding the aircraft and the number of pilots, and that is why we are awaiting the CENTCOM public press release in order to confirm some of these details. What we do know, however, though, is that the U.S. President Donald Trump has been briefed about this.
Could this be a false flag justifying Easter invasion? Buddy, you're out of your dang mind. Okay? No. They're not trying to literally show their ass to the rest of the world. This is a fucking huge flub. We already amassed a number of troops in the region. If you want to fucking invade, you just invade. Trump has said it already. He doesn't need a fucking false flag. It's already over. Trump is not responsive to public pressure at all. It doesn't matter at all. This is probably the dumbest false flag that you could possibly conduct. There's just no, you don't do this. They're not just pretending to take significant L's here, okay? Significant L's that undermine the argument that they presented for the past 30 fucking days, which is, we're doing great. We're doing great. We've destroyed all of their anti-air systems. We have full air superiority. We've destroyed all of their missile launchers as well. Their missile launching capabilities have been diminished. That's a lie. All of that is a lie. And this proves that all of that is a lie. Like, I don't think this is how you would do a false flag at all.
Incident, and is following it very closely. And so we are also awaiting a statement from the White House. But in the interim, what we can tell you definitively is that this video does conclusively show that the claim made by the U.S. president that Iran's air defenses and air capabilities had been destroyed is not true, given the fact that Iran is claiming that it has shot down U.S. military aircraft.
Kimberly Halkett at the White House, thank you for that update. Let's check in with Ali Hashim now in Tehran. Ali, what are the Iranians saying about this downed jet?
Well, officially, the only lines we are hearing is that the military and people are looking for the pilots or the pilot, because the narrative here in Iran is that this was an F-35 jet. Now, the Americans are saying it's an F-15 with 2 pilots. So this is over here the issue. Now, with respect to reactions, we are seeing the Iranian Speaker of Parliament, Mohammad Bagher Ghalibaf, character and personality, very influential these days, and his name is being repeated a lot. He says in a tweet on X, after defeating Iran 37 times in a row, this brilliant no-strategy war they started has now been downgraded from regime change to, hey, can anyone find out our pilots, please? So this is the first official reaction. At the end, there's something very crucial here. This is not the first time the Iranians are saying they're attacking or hitting American or Israeli fighter jets. It started on the 19th of March when they said they struck an F-35. Then from the American side, there was a report on an incident that took place with this plane and that the pilot was in stable condition. Later on, we had about F-15.
Hasan, do you think it's important to mention that Iran has no internet for over a month? So most of the things you see is what the Iranian government wants you to see. Not saying there was internet. You're going to see Iranians cheering for the bombs or anything like that. Yeah, I did mention that. But once again, Samira, welcome back, by the way. Welcome back to doing the same thing that you do every single time. I mentioned that in the beginning of the story, as a matter of fact. Maybe you weren't here. Maybe you didn't hear me say that. But that was quite literally the first thing that I mentioned when I talked about how unique it is that there are so many reports or so many social media posts coming from the ground about these low-flying these low-flying aircraft on Iranian soil, given the fact that Iran has been in an effective internet blackout. You know, bro, I need to correct you on one thing, though. I did. You said Morandi's not connected to the government, but I was waiting for the right moment. I said Morandi is a spokesperson, the de facto spokesperson for the government, but officially, I don't believe he is. I mean, his father, I think, was like a surgeon for Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, right? But I don't think he is. I've said he's effectively a spokesperson. Once again, I know. Let's continue.
16, and now we're hearing about the F-35. Just a few days ago, there were pictures of one jet. I don't remember quite the number, but the jet was hit above the area of Sistan, Baluchistan, precisely Chabahar. And there were some videos showing how it was targeted. Now, there was a lot of controversy around this video. Today, it's clear that, yes, Iran has struck.
Why is it every time I tune in, you're defending the violent bullies? First Hamas, then the Houthis, then Cuba, now Iran. If only, hear me out, if only there was a significantly more violent force that was dominating every single one of these non-state actors and also state actors. If only. Just think for a moment. Just think, who's on the opposing side in these incidents? Is it within your capacity to recognize that perhaps maybe we are the bullies, the violent bullies? Landing on Iran is deadly, costly, yes, but it's like a D-Day to liberate them. You're a fucking idiot. Okay, whatever, dude. To liberate them. Bro is operating on 2003 talking points in 2026, bro. I swear to God. Amazing. Amazing. 23 years of liberation, and he's still like, well, what if we're just like doing a D-Day style liberation campaign? Like, what if I'm a fucking idiot who was comatose for the past 23 years, just woke up from a coma, and the only thing I learned about was when America did World War II? What then? What now, libtard? What do you have to say to that?
An American jet. And the IRGC said a few days ago that they've developed, after the 12 days war, they've developed a new system of anti-aircraft missiles. What's this system? Is it carried on the shoulder? Is it a system? No one knows.
Okay, Ali, thank you for that update. Ali Hashem in Tehran there for us.
Hi, I'm Diana Macedo. We're coming back on the air with new details on a U.S. fighter jet shot down by Iran. A U.S. official confirms to ABC News one of the crew members has been rescued. Let's get right to Chief Global Affairs anchor Martha Raddatz. Martha, what do we know so far?
We know that.
So the other one, MIA for the time being. But apparently one of the crew members has been rescued. Now, I don't know how reliable this information is because CENTCOM has been aggressively lying about it. Okay. And the first piece of information that we got on this incident came from Israeli news as well, and then also the American arm of Israeli news, CBS. So I don't know how reliable that information is either, if we're being fair, right? Just giving you fair warning here. It could be the case, certainly, that the search and rescue operations were successful and they got one out. It could be total bullshit, okay? I don't know yet.
It was a two-seater jet, an F-15E Strike Eagle. So there is the one crew member they have found and one crew member remains missing. Normally in this aircraft, there is a pilot in the front seat and a weapons systems officer in the back seat. It has been more.
Hasan can't help himself but berate helpful chatters like, damn dog, you don't got to be a dick. Most people don't watch your 8-hour stream, Lamau. We have a life and you should expect people popping in and out. Repeating yourself is probably going to happen and helpful to new chatters. Chatter. You're not being a helpful chatter. I'm going to explain to you why really quickly before we continue with the story. I know that other chatter. That chatter comes in here and always half listens to what I'm saying, only to repeat the things that I have said earlier and imply that I haven't been saying the things that I have said in an effort to imply that I'm actually, across the board, unconditionally offering full support to the Iranian government. I guess in this situation, in this dynamic, I put all my cards on the table. I said what I've said about how in order to preserve the Iranian nation state and in order not to allow it to perish and destabilize and in order to avoid far worse consequences in general, I do think that the best possible move going forward is that the IRGC continues to defend the nation state and remains intact. Because otherwise, the alternative is not going to be like regime change and like liberal democracy or anything. The alternative is going to be endless ethnic and sectarian conflict fomented by Israel and the United States of America, and a potentially balkanized Iran with 93 million people and tens of millions of displaced that will trigger another much larger refugee crisis. So, that's the reason why I have my perspective, and a lot of chatters will come in here, especially Iranians that are in diaspora who hate the government.